What is happening? How long has it been? Too long. How are we doing? It is just after 9:30, and you are exactly where you need to be. You're kicking it with Johnny Gaz live. Welcome, 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 one and all. If you're watching live or if you're watching back on a recording, thank you so much for being a part of the channel. We are here to talk Detroit sports. We have so many good topics tonight. Obviously, we have the Lions OTAs kicking off this week. We're going to dive heavy into the Lions roster here today. We're going to go through it with you guys. I want to ask your opinions, get your feedback on what this 53-man roster could look like as we head closer and closer to training camp and this regular season. We've got the Tigers finishing up at home against the Angels. We're going to get an update on that here in just a minute. We're going to be talking Pistons and what could have been versus the Knicks. I think I'm going to have a surprise take for you guys on that one, something you probably haven't heard today. So we're going to get into that. But more than anything, I want to make sure you guys are doing well. How was your Memorial Day weekend? How are things? Thank you for joining me. We were off last week for the holiday week. We also had some technical difficulties in the show before we were on with Don't Know Grit. I want to apologize to him formally. That last live that we had 2 Thursdays ago just did not go the way a typical Johnny Gaz live session should go. And with all the good information that Don't Know Grit had to present to us, unfortunately, that recording just didn't give us the good. So I apologize, buddy. I will have you back on in a future show. I believe I have ironed out most of the technical difficulties. Please let me know in the chat if you were seeing anything funny, but I think we have some things worked out, and we're going to have a good show tonight, guys. We're going to have a good time, and I want to hear from you guys. Of course, we got Don't Know Grit in the house. Mile Marker's in the house. How you doing, buddy? MC EPP, how we doing, buddy? Appreciate you. Trim's in the house. What up, Doe? How's everybody doing? I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for getting involved early and often in the chat. Let's make sure to slap that like button early on in the stream. Let's share it out to our friends and family. Let's get it on these feeds. Let's get some more folks talking Detroit sports with us. How does that sound? How does that sound? I hope it sounds good. Cheers to everybody out there. Appreciate you guys. Let's have a good night. So, yeah, we had a little break last week, and I appreciate you all hanging in there and coming back to me here on a Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We're typically live Tuesdays and Thursdays. That is the plan moving forward. That is the plan as we continue on through this offseason for the Detroit Lions. Of course, we have the Tigers going on, so I will continue with all the score updates that you are used to on Johnny Gaz Sports on Facebook and all your social networks. But tonight, we are just going to have some fun. Let's kick off our night how we usually do here at Johnny Gaz Sports. Let's start by going around the D. All right, around the D with Johnny G. Let's first start with the Tigers. We got to start there. Unfortunately, they are playing live as we speak. They are in the bottom of the 9th inning. They currently trail 10-6. This is a game where the Tigers led early. They got up to an early lead, off to a 1-0 start, then give up consecutive innings of 2 runs. They go up again 6-4, and then they have the terrible inning in the 8th where they give up 5 runs, including a grand slam to Grissom, which then made the score 9-6 at the time. The Angels have added on an additional homer, making it now 10-6 with 2 outs left in the 9th. And it looks like the Tigers are going to drop the first game of this series to one of the only other worst teams in the American League, the Los Angeles Angels. And I hate to start our live today with the Tigers topic, but let's just get it out of the way here. How we doing, Millicent? Good to see you. Lightning is in the house. How we doing? You know what we haven't had in a while, Millicent, and we got to get back into this. Every time we see Millicent, we give her one of these. Appreciate you guys. Good to see you in the chat. Thank you again. So Tigers, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, down 10-6, and they are losing to one of the worst teams in the American League. But let's be honest with ourselves. The Tigers are also one of the worst teams in the American League. With all the injuries, we know what's happened there. But even besides that, their bullpen struggles, even as their starters have slowly kind of come back and worked themselves back, and they actually had a Cater Montero start today, Casey Mize, Framber Valdez. I mean, they have decent starting pitchers. It just seems like when they get a decent start, the bullpen lets them down. When they get a decent start and bullpen, they can't get the bats going. And on a day like today, unfortunately, you're going back to pitching chaos after Cater Montero. So you're running up guys that have pitched here in the recent days, Hanafi, Vest, and then Holton. And in this case, Will Vest was the one to give up the big runs in the 8th inning, and it's just all falling apart for the Tigers. I guess my question to you guys, we won't go too analytical into this and go too deep into the Tigers this evening, but are you even paying attention to this team anymore? Have they dug themselves so much of a hole here to where it's not even worth watching or checking in on? Have you given up on the Tigers in 2026? Or is there something still keeping you there? Is the thought of Tariq Skubal coming back? Is the thought of maybe even the Tigers being sellers at the trade deadline at least keeping you interested? Is there anything there that keeps you going back to this Tigers team? They did end up losing this game 10-6. They now are at 21-33, beaten by one of the other terrible teams in the American League, the Angels of Los Angeles. And it's just one of those series that you just can't lose games. I mean, I don't care where your roster's at. The Angels are terrible. They're terrible. You know, they're throwing out a lineup outside of Mike Trout, and he was actually 0 for 4 today, believe it or not. But, you know, they're getting beat by one of the worst lineups in the American League. So it is what it is. You had a guy pitching today for the Angels that, you know, I mean, he didn't even throw that great. Honestly, their starting pitcher wasn't good either. He gave up 5 earned runs in 4 innings. But then their bullpen really locked it down, and the Tigers did the complete opposite. So the Tigers bullpen blew it for them today, and they lose 10-6, and they're in a tough spot. So let me know in the chat, is there any reason why you guys would be hanging on to the Tigers at this point, or have you given up? Trim says, they gone. They are a tough watch, says Don't Know Grit. Yeah, they are. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. He says, I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship at this point. I keep giving them chances, and they keep kicking me right in the jewels. Every night, man, they find a new way. You know, when we're joyously celebrating a split in a doubleheader against Baltimore the other day, you know things are going bad, and it's just getting worse. So that will be our Tigers update for the day because, guys, I don't want to talk Tigers anymore. But I owe you an update. Johnny Gaz Sports, Detroit Sports, we're always going to make our rounds. But let's move on. I want to move on to a topic that made its rounds today. A lot of sports outlets talking about what the New York Knicks are doing in this current NBA playoffs. They're on an 11-game playoff winning streak. One of the longest winning streaks in NBA playoff history, winning closeout games by 20-plus points at a clip, and beating the team that really embarrassed the Pistons in that Game 7 matchup in the Eastern Conference semifinals. I mean, we went over that matchup. We went live after several of those games, and we talked about how and why the Pistons may have lost that series to Cleveland. I did not expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to beat the New York Knicks, but I did not expect for Cleveland to get swept out of the Eastern Conference Finals and to look so bad in the process. Now, we knew the Cleveland Cavaliers were a flawed basketball team. In watching them against the Pistons in their 7-game series, you could see how there's cracks in that armor for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and everything came to a head against this Knicks team who is playing the best basketball in the Eastern Conference. Now, the argument is, will they be good enough to beat one of these Western Conference teams? Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the point of this topic is that you had a lot of outlets today saying that the Pistons would have given the Knicks a better series in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it wouldn't have just been a 4-game sweep. Well, I'm here to tell you one thing. I think the exact opposite is true. I'm not sitting here going to tell you that the Cleveland Cavaliers are a world beater, but they certainly had enough talent to beat the Pistons. And honestly, if it wasn't for some decent comebacks in that series against Cleveland, I don't know that it even goes 7 games. So I have a hard time looking at this, seeing how the Knicks are playing, and then thinking that the Pistons were going to give them much better of a series. I'm not saying necessarily the Pistons would have gone in there and gotten swept against New York. They really had New York's number throughout the year. They swept the Knicks in the regular season, and they really played them well defensively. But I just think this Knicks team is firing differently as they got into these playoffs. And obviously over this last winning streak, they are playing next level basketball. Their defense is flying around. They're able to get ball handle. Like most of their lineup can ball handle. And when they're getting contributions off their bench from guys like Shamet, who's shooting the lights out from three, OG Anunoby, Miles Bridges. I mean, you got guys really stepping up, multiple players stepping up and playing huge roles for this Knicks team. That's where the Pistons just were lacking. They didn't have third, fourth, fifth scoring options to lean on in a case where, let's say, Jalen Brunson is taken out of the game, or him and Cat are even taken out of the game. New York has other options, other shooters to turn to make this work. And like Lightning says, like Millicent says, Knicks are playing consistent ball right now on both ends of the floor. And their transition game especially is so impressive. Watching the Knicks get after Cleveland in transition, and that was on steals especially, but even on missed baskets, even sometimes on made baskets. If they were able to get the ball up the floor and run, they just ran past Cleveland. And we know, again, Cleveland with their downfall really is their effort. The fact that when they get down or they start turning the ball over, their effort would fall off. And the Pistons just weren't able to force that hand enough in that previous series in the Eastern Conference semifinals, where the Knicks just took over, just ran over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, my fear is that the Knicks would have done the same thing to the Pistons. Maybe to a lesser extent, maybe the Pistons steal a game, but I just don't see how the Pistons were going to battle this Knicks team, even if they were able to get by the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference semifinals. So I think, if anything, this Eastern Conference Final Series, if you're really paying attention to it, to me gives the blueprint for what the Pistons really need to do in this offseason to compete at that highest level. They had a great season, 60 wins, first seed in the East, won a playoff series, took the Cavs to the brink, almost got to the Eastern Conference Finals. And truly, we don't know what would have happened in that series. So I'm just predicting from what I'm seeing from this Knicks team and then from what I saw from the Pistons. So this is just my opinion, but I really believe the blueprint now has been set. The Pistons can see that the defense has to be consistent. It can't come in spurts. Now, it was great spurts. The Pistons, a better defensive team in spurts than the Knicks. But what the Knicks are showing is the consistency over the course of an entire game, a 4-game series, a 7-game series, taking over, where that defense is leading to points. They're able to convert more often those turnovers into points. And on top of that, more than anything else, they just have more secondary scoring options consistently to go to. Whereas the Pistons, if you didn't have Cade Cunningham, not only as the true first option scorer, but if he wasn't the primary ball handler in any of those senses, the Pistons just weren't the same team. Whereas the Knicks are able to allow other guys to take over, to handle the rock. Cat extends the floor for them. They have other big guys off the bench that contribute. And they are flying around the court right now, and it's going to be hard to stop. And no matter who the Knicks play, I think they're going to be a tough out in the NBA Finals. There's also been some rumors flying around. Obviously now, with the Pistons being in their offseason, there's a lot of rumors as far as names and what the organization should do to bring in additional talent. We know they're going to have to work through the Jalen Duren contract. So that's maybe the biggest point this offseason is how do they work through that contract with Duren? Does he end up with a max? What does that ultimate contract look like? And what does that allow them to do on top of that deal? And I mean, there's a lot of names that I would prefer the Pistons go after, but that necessarily hasn't popped up just yet. And it may not as we get deeper into the offseason, but some of the names that have popped up now, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Kyrie Irving has been thrown around. I mean, what do you guys think of those names? If one of those three players, and these are the older free agent options, you know, guys that have a history of performing in this league, but in one way or another, either that be through health, social reasons, or just age and time, are now towards the back end of their careers. All three of those guys. But if you had to have one of those options, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, or Paul George, let me know in the chat, which one of those guys would you be okay with the Pistons acquiring? Maybe none of them. To me, there's a clear answer out of those three if they are true options for the Pistons, all three of them. I think Kawhi we have to work something out, but that name has definitely been thrown out there. Lightning says, I agree with you on that take, Johnny. Thank you, Millicent. Pistons should have been versus the Spurs. Trim, that'd be a great series. I would have loved to see that, honestly. It would have been great. Wemby, who should be a Piston, will win it all. Man, Wemby is in true alien. He is fun to watch. That series that's on right now, if you guys are watching basketball, the Western Conference Finals have been very good. Don't know says Pistons need one more guy that can create for himself. Cade is creating for everyone right now, and it's just too much. I agree 100%. 100%. Knicks have guys that can create their own shot. 4, 5, 6 guys, including people coming off their bench. And I think that's truly the difference. They have a deeper roster than the Pistons have. He says 5 years ago, maybe one of those guys. I mean, look, I think the thing is, how much money will the Pistons be willing to spend on top of the Duren contract? So I think some of these names get thrown out there because the Pistons might be able to work out a veteran deal. And I when I hear those three names, myself personally, I don't want anything to do with Kyrie Irving. And it's not even necessarily a basketball related issue. To me, it's more of what I think he might do in the locker room. Now, word is he's kind of cleaned some of that up since he's been with Dallas, but I just don't think you take a risk with that guy there. I think Paul George just doesn't give you enough. I think he was averaging 17 points per game. You can get that out of Tobias Harris in the right context. So I don't think Paul George is the way to go. Kawhi is the most interesting one of those, in my opinion. He had a good season last year. Now, he was hurt and out a lot of the year, so that's a huge factor as well. You're not going to get 65 games out of Kawhi Leonard. But I think he ultimately would give you a second option that other teams have to account for. That would certainly give Cade room to work. Now, I don't think that could be the only move, but and you're right, don't know. He is always hurt. And would another year just make things worse? So, again, it's not the best option. I'm not saying this needs to be one of the Pistons' options. But in the chat, let me know. If it had to be one of these three guys, Kawhi, Kyrie, or Paul George, which one of those three would you be okay with the Pistons acquiring? And it's a risky move in any sense because you know what the foundation is. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, you got the young talent, flexibility. You don't want to panic because New York looks so far ahead of you at this point, but I think the Knicks have gotten there through years of building depth. They're not at the point the Pistons are at. The Knicks are 4 years ahead of where this Pistons team was at, maybe more. So you can't skip steps if you're the Pistons. You have to continue to build depth, acquire talent. I don't know. And Trajan Langdon came out and said this. They're not looking to make some huge splash. I mean, they're going to look at all options, but they're not going to be overly aggressive, I don't think. Don't know says, I hear Beasley is out there. I've heard that as well. A Malik Beasley reintroduction to the Pistons lineup. I mean, it's a shooter. I don't love it. I don't think it fixes all their problems, but it's a guy that could help them. Prim says Irving. He'd take Irving in that case. Irving might be the best pure scorer left of those three. I mean, Kawhi can still create, but I think Kyrie, maybe fits what the Pistons would want in a secondary option better. I don't love the man. I think that's the problem. I like the basketball player, but I don't like the guy. So that's just me. That's personal. But in either way, I just watching the Knicks dismantle the Cavaliers was therapeutic in a way. I think we all knew that the Cavs just weren't built to win an NBA title this year. I mean, especially compared to the West teams. But I just don't think a guy like the Beard, James Harden, is a winning locker room guy. He hasn't been his entire career, and now all of a sudden that's going to change. It just seems like he is, I hate to use the word, but a cancer to a certain extent for an organization. He's great in the regular season. He's great creating his own shots. He still gives you moments here and there, but he's just not consistently the defensive player you need, the hustle guy you need, the locker room leader that you want to have. And look, they beat the Pistons, so credit to them, but they just weren't in nowhere near the league that the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it scared me when I watched that and comparing to the Pistons. So my take, a lot different than I think what a lot of people I heard say today. I think a lot of people took the stance that the Pistons really would have given the Knicks a run for their money. I just don't see it that way based on how the Knicks are playing now. If this was 4 months ago in the regular season, a whole different story. But this current Knicks collection and the way they're playing and how they've figured out how to use their secondary pieces, I think that would have been very difficult to beat. We need a guy who can fall down like SGA so we can get some calls. Hey, there's a great topic. That's not my plan on today, but this is a great opinion. I want to get it from you guys because I'm very into the basketball right now. It's just once the Lions season ended and obviously Tigers have faded away, I've really focused back into the NBA playoffs, and watching the Oklahoma City Thunder is difficult. They've won championships. They may win back-to-back championships. SGA, back-to-back MVPs. You can't knock his production, but the way he goes about getting his production is very difficult to watch. I've never seen players drive to the basket without the intent of scoring, with the intent of getting fouled. It's rare that, especially an MVP type player, guys that are in the scoring leader categories are operating that way. But in today's NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder have figured out how to work the system to their advantage. And I'm going to give them a little bit of credit for that. You can't knock them for playing the game the way it's being officiated. And until the officials make it a point to penalize them for flopping, they don't have any incentive to stop. Now, teams are starting to figure this out. I think the more and more the media sheds light on this, the more attention that's getting paid now to what's truly happening. I think you'll start to see it shift little bits and pieces at a time. But there's no doubt that play style is difficult to watch. Number one, hard to get behind. If you're not an OKC fan, I don't know how you get behind that, or that kind of player, the team in general. And the NBA, how do you get behind that? I mean, we saw it. The Pistons saw it in the Cleveland series and in the Orlando series. I mean, the Pistons were not getting the benefit of the whistle in a lot of cases, and that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Pistons don't foul bait. They don't play that style of basketball. You heard, I think, Cade Cunningham, or no, it was Donovan Mitchell, come out in a post-game press conference, I think it was after game one, and say, but look, I'm just going to have to start flopping. That's what's going to happen. And then at that point forward, whether or not it was coincidence or whatever, the foul numbers flipped in Cleveland's favor. Yeah, he flops in every sense of the word. SGA is the most difficult superstar to watch right now. It's tough. I mean, you think about a guy like Kobe or Jordan, true MVPs that would never have played that way. I mean, but the game was officiated differently when they were playing. And again, Oklahoma City has just figured this out and figured it out in a way that's benefited them to the highest extent. And it may happen again this year. Matter of fact, if you flip on the game, you'll probably see a little bit of that right now. But again, the Spurs at the same time have kind of learned to work around this. Now, it doesn't work in every case, but you can see the Spurs defending those players differently, defending SGA differently. They're just as much as he's going to the hole looking to get fouled, they're understanding, okay, he's going to the hole to get fouled, so we're gonna guard him differently. LeBronica. It's funny, Trim. I have more of an appreciation for LeBron in watching Oklahoma City. Nobody gets fouled more than LeBron James. And I'm not saying LeBron doesn't, flop or overreact to certain fouls that he's taken, but he's almost had to do that in some cases because he really, before the Oklahoma City Thunder came around and this whole flopping brigade became a thing, it was LeBron James's league, and he was getting fouled more than anybody. But because of his size, speed, and his ability to just take over any game, it never looked like this or got to this level. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. Let's check in on that score, actually. Where we got for the Oklahoma City Thunder right now are up 69-58 at halftime against the San Antonio Spurs. So we'll check back in on that after the live's over. He gets fouled 3 times more than the nearest guy. I agree with that. But let's flip it over, guys. I think it's time. We've gone through a few Detroit sports items for today, but I think it is time to get into our main topic of the day. All right, guys, our main topic of the day, as you see in the title of the live, State of the Lions. We are in OTA. So we've gone past the early season workouts. We know the Lions did not hold a rookie minicamp, but now OTAs are set to kick off tomorrow, May 27th. The first week will be the next 3 days, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Week 2 is June 2nd through June 4th. And then week 3 is June 9th through the 11th. Now, organized team activities kind of represent the final phase of the offseason, what they refer to as phase 3. So there's no pads, there's still no live contact, none of that is prohibited, but the teams can now get together and sort of have all team activities. The first time units will be working together against their common opponent, which is themselves. So it's kind of the beginning of true real football. The media will be able to go to one individual practice each week. So we'll start to see more and more media stories coming out of this offseason program for the Lions, which is really exciting. And we'll also start to speculate and pare down the Lions roster, which eventually has to get down to 53. So today's State of the Lions, for me and you guys, will be going through the current roster, the current slate of players, and see if we can predict what the final 53 will look like. At the same time, I'd love to bounce off you guys who you're most excited about at OTAs. Is it some of the rookies that are coming in? Is it the new free agents that the Lions brought in? Which position battle are you most looking forward to? Or is there a guy you're looking, to make sure they're healthy? There's so many different things now as we start to get towards real football. This kind of kicks off the Lions off season, in my opinion. We're going to hit it hard today. How we doing, everybody? Looks like we're starting to ramp up a little bit. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. King Eras. How we doing, buddy? James Harden started the OD Flop Brigade. Yeah, he's the original flop artist, man. The beard is the king of the flop. I mean, he started the whole thing. What's up, Jody? How we doing? Good to see you, Jody. Nickel corner is going to be a battle. That's one we're going to get into. That's one of those ones, defensive backs, obviously safeties. We're going to talk about that here a little bit more detail with the current safety situation, the injuries. How do they mix things up in the defensive backfield to cover there? Plus, you're already looking at guys like Terry Arnold, DJ Reed, Enos Rakestraw, guys you need to have better performances out of in 2026. Secondary is a huge piece of that, don't know. So we're going to dive into that as well. So let me know in the chat, what are you guys most looking forward to with OTAs? Love Abney taking over number 1. Yeah, Keith Abney, great draft pick. It'll be interesting to see how he hits the ground running. I think he's got a great shot at the nickel cornerback position. Truthfully, you talk about don't know grit, asking the nickel corner role. That's where Keith Abney might have a shot at hitting the field early. So let's kind of go through this top to bottom. I'm going to start with the offense. We'll kind of go through the cast of characters we have at each position. Let me know, guys. I want to hear from you. Who's in? Who's out? I know this is very premature, but with the Lions roster the way it is, I think it's one of the deepest Lions rosters we've had in our history, especially in the Dan Campbell era. So I'd love to hear from you guys. So at the quarterback position, we know the staple, the everydayer, Jared Goff, who's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL the last 5 seasons. Over the last 3 years, he's been one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, even through transitioning from Ben Johnson to John Morton, now over to Drew Petzing. I really believe Jared Goff is still the key to this Lions offense winning a Super Bowl in 2026 and beyond. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Jared Goff is the best quarterback in football. He's an elite quarterback, but he's the Lions quarterback. He's a winning quarterback, and I believe that Jared Goff can win this team a Super Bowl. So he is by far, without question, your number one starter. We know the Lions then brought in Teddy Bridgewater again this offseason to be your veteran presence, the clipboard guy, somebody who knows the locker room, knows the area, knows Detroit, and can help the young talent around him. So we believe that he will be the backup quarterback. Now, we know the Lions also went out and got undrafted free agent Luke Altmaier. That might be the biggest point of intrigue in this position group because we're not sure if the Lions will hold on to three quarterbacks. They typically do not once they get into the regular season. So the question is, will Luke Altmaier be able to make this roster or at least make the team decide whether or not to keep three quarterbacks? So let me know what you think. Probably a practice squad guy, in my opinion. Looks like Don't Know Grit shares that, and that's kind of where I see him ending up. That's a great statement, Trim. Let's put that up on the board. I mean, maturity isn't an age, it's a destination. That it is. I don't know if I've reached that one yet, but we're getting there. I'm excited for the competition at practice at every position. I love it. I just love that football's kicking off, Millicent. It's a great time of year. Sun's out. Well, not right now, but you know what I'm saying. Summer's coming. It's all good. So let's talk about the running backs. I came out with a short just this morning talking about how I think the Lions running back rushing attack situation will be better in 2026 compared to last year. And obviously with the new set of running backs, David Montgomery being gone, Isaiah Pacheco in, along with the revamped offensive line, hopefully an increased offensive scheme, you could see a lot of good things from this rushing attack in 2026. So let's look at the players. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, your premier back, is kind of still waiting to see if the Lions will make a move with his contract before this season begins. They did pick up his fifth-year option, so there's nothing they have to do right now, but the word is that they want to get that deal done. We're still waiting to hear on that. Isaiah Pacheco brought in on the one-year deal as a replacement for David Montgomery. He will be your running back too, sort of more of a power back. Be great to spell Jahmyr Gibbs in goal line situations when you need to protect the quarterback here. But behind him is where I think it gets interesting, where there's some questions. And so Sione Vaki really is the guy that we expect to be the third running back. And he's now coming back healthy. He's had some injury concerns. We know he was in and out of the lineup last year, was really more of a special teams guy when he was in the lineup. But now with the departure of David Montgomery, I think you might see Sione Vaki actually get some carries worked in this year. Now behind him, Jacob Sailors, Jabari Small, Kai Robichaux. None of those three guys, in my opinion, kind of move the needle. So their practice squad potential, and when you look at it, only Jacob Sailors really got some carries in a regular season setting to where he could take the spot of Sione Vaki if for some reason he's not healthy. But with the 1-2 punch of Jahmyr Gibbs and Isaiah Pacheco, do you guys feel confident in the Lions rushing attack? Is that going to be enough for what the Lions need to do here? Or would Jahmyr Gibbs just be the ultimate solution? Because that's really what I think the Lions are hoping for, and where the trajectory would indicate he's going is to the top of the NFL. Not that he's not there now, but he will now get more than a majority of these carries, and it'll be interesting to see how many all-purpose yards he can put up in 2026. It could be scary. Could be scary. Let's move over into those wide receivers. We know the Lions locker room is really headed up, is that the word? Heat HUD. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, on and off the field, the Lions spokesperson, all-pro wide receiver, then Jameson Williams, and when that is your 1-2 punch already, we're in a good spot. But behind him again is where it gets really fun, because we know last year they spent a lot of draft capital to go get young Isaac Tesla. He showed a ton of promise last season. It seemed like every catch he made was significant in some way. He just didn't get a lot of opportunity. Some of that because of what's in front of him, some of it because he was a rookie. I think there was a lack of trust within the Lions offense that was shifting around a lot last season. And now I think he will get a real opportunity. In 2026, I think he'll become your big body wide receiver option. The Lions also brought in Greg Dortch, who I think will be more of the return specialist, speed guy. Then you have Kendrick Law, Dominic Lovett, Tom Kennedy, Cedric Wilson Jr., we know they picked up from Miami, Malik Cunningham, and Jackson Meeks, which was last year's undrafted free agent, which they were really high on as well. So there are a lot of wide receivers in this room. Question will be, how many do they ultimately keep on the 53? They typically have kept 6 wide receivers, which would mean that 4 of those players are out. So to me, the obvious ones are Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Isaac Tesla. Those are your 3. Lock them in. 1, 2, 3, done. Now, past that is where I think you have some questions. You brought in Greg Dortch. I don't think that was for no reason at all. I think he ultimately replaces your return specialist role. So I think Greg Dortch is your 4th wide receiver. But what happens after that? Kendrick Law, Dominic Lovett, Tom Kennedy, Cedric Wilson, Malik Cunningham, Jackson Meeks. Who is making this roster for wide receivers? If the 4 are Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Isaac Tesla, and Greg Dortch, who are the other 2? Don't know. Says 700 yards for Tesla this year. Strong possibility. I mean, if you think about where the coverage is going to be geared towards, shifted towards, anytime Jamison Williams is on the field, he's being bracketed. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a slot nightmare. So Isaac Tesla should have plenty of opportunity this year. Don't know says TK85 and the Law. Kendrick Law would make sense, right? Because that's a recent draft pick. I think they're going to want to give him as much opportunity as possible. Dominic Lovett had the injury. Again, that was last year's late round draft pick. So Kendrick Law, looks like we got a lot of support for Kendrick Law. I'm excited to see him at OTAs. I want to know what he's all about. I didn't get a lot of opportunity. That was the Kentucky wide receiver, right? So didn't watch a lot of Kentucky football, truthfully. I'll have to really see what he's got in OTA. So as we talk about what we could get excited for, that's definitely one of them, and it's a very intriguing group to watch. I'm going to have my eyes on that because the back end of the wide receiver room, I think that battle will be interesting. Tight end, Sam Laporta, we know, coming off the back injury, a lot of questions. Another guy the Lions are looking to re-sign sooner than later, but what would that contract look like? Should they re-sign him based on his injury history? I think in looking at the rest of the 2023 draft class, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, and the running back, Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, I don't know that I would re-sign Jahmyr Gibbs to a crazy contract. That's just me personally, but I know the Lions are going to do it. They've said it, and I think it's going to happen. So I think that's a no-brainer based on what the Lions have said. Brian Branch has performed to an extent without the injury to where I think that's a no-brainer. But Sam Laporta is a different story. Now, he had a breakout rookie year and then kind of a quiet second, third year because of the injuries. Or second year because of the injuries. Now, what can he be in year 3? Is this now a breakout year potential? Can he stay healthy? And through all of that, is he worth re-signing? Because Sam Laporta is probably going to demand top dollar tight end. And with his injury history, is that the smartest move for the Lions to make? But the truth is, right now, the Lions will have him signed through this season. Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Tyler Conklin, currently listed with Thomas Gordon, Zach Horton, and Miles Kitzelman. I think that was an undrafted free agent in that room as well. Again, the Lions typically keep 3 tight ends. You would have to imagine Sam Laporta and Brock Wright are shoo-ins there. And most likely, I would say Tyler Conklin. But do we have any reason to believe that Thomas Gordon, Zach Horton, or Miles Kitzelman could supersede the very handsome, debonair, beauteous Brock Wright? Don't know, loves Brock Wright. We all love Brock Wright, and he's an extremely handsome man. He's got very cut chin lines, very symmetrical. He's a beautiful boy, you know? That is what it is. But yeah, I'm thinking Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Tyler Conklin, and I would say Miles Kitzelman has an outside shot to do something for this team. There's another interesting camp battle because the Lions love their tight ends already. We know Drew Petzing loves to run heavy sets. Would they keep a 4th tight end on the roster? There's some possibilities there, which will give Gordon, Horton, and Kitzelman an opportunity in these early OTAs and off-season programs. Offensive linemen, again, another position where we're not sure how many they'll ultimately keep, 9, 10. They've usually kept around 9. We know Penei Sewell leads this group. They picked up Cade Mays, Tate Ratledge the year before. Blake Miller was their draft pick this year. Then you have guys like Christian Mahogany, Larry Borum, Miles Frazier, Juice Scruggs, Ben Barch. Past that is where you really have some battles and figure out which one of these guys is for real. Giovanni Manu is in that kind of just outside group. Colby Solersdahl, Michael Neese, Devin Cochran, Mason Miller, Seth McLaughlin, and Melvin Priestley round out your current group of offensive linemen. Again, about half of those guys will really make this 53-man roster. We kind of know what our starters will be. Cade Mays in the middle, Tate Ratledge to his right. We're thinking probably Christian Mahogany to his left, Penei Sewell, and Blake Miller, but you could see Miles Frazier work himself in at a guard position. You have Larry Borum you like at tackle, and you have a lot of depth options there that they picked up this offseason that they're very happy with. Can Giovanni Manu play well enough this training camp, these OTAs, to earn himself a position on this team? I think this is the ultimate make or break year for Giovanni Manu. He did some things last year, but I don't think showed enough to where the Lions have any true faith in him. Can he take the next step this year? And Don't Know responds exactly to that. Says, I think if he hasn't taken a massive leap forward, the Manu experiment needs to end. I mean, I think this might be it right here. And with all the depth they brought in, there are no excuses for him anymore. There's no experiments left. He either can play or he cannot. So I don't know if this is the most intriguing what to watch for in OTAs as far as the offensive line. Again, without full pads and true contact, it's really hard to get a judge on offensive line, defensive line, especially in OTAs. But it'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out as far as their depth. And this is the unit for me that makes or breaks the season for the Lions. I mean, we talked about Jared Goff being the most important piece. Well, to be able to protect that piece are these guys right here, the offensive linemen. Cade Mays being the feature piece to what the Lions brought in free agency. And he's got to be the guy. I've been sent a lot of things on Cade Mays here over the last couple of weeks about his run blocking and what the scheme looked like with Carolina. Well, I'm hoping that with his addition here, surrounded by better offensive linemen, a better scheme, a better running back, a quarterback that understands the offense better, that all will in turn make Cade Mays look better as a center and the whole unit look better. That's wishful thinking. I get it. It's drinking the blue Kool-Aid. I know that. But that's what that move was intended to do. And if it does hold true, this could be the thing that makes the Lions season. I mean, and Trim said it, the Detroit offense is going to be number one. They have a strong shot at being the best offense in the NFL. And it's all predicated on what this offensive line does. If the line is stable, and I'm not asking Cade Mays to be Frank Ragnow. I mean, that's unfair. But a combination of Cade Mays, 2 more experienced guards now. You got Ratledge on the right, and whoever they decide or wins that left guard position should be in a much better spot interior than they were last year at this same time. Don't Know says, I'm a bigger Cade Mays fan than most. I really believe he'll be a big upgrade in the middle. I think you're right, my man. And that will mean a lot for this Lions team, this Lions offense. Let's flip it over to the defense. Let's look at the interior defensive line. Again, this is an interesting position group to watch for in the new year. Interior, Lee McNeil, Tyleik Williams, Jay Tufele, Levi Onwuzurike, Skylar Gill-Howard, Mekhi Wingo, Tyler Lacey, Miles Adams, Chris Smith. We know the Lions lost some production last year. Roy Lopez, DJ Reader are gone. They get Onwuzurike back after missing all of last season. So you wonder, what can Onwuzurike be? This is also, I think, a make or break for him. But I think Aleem McNeil, to me, is the piece within this group. If you're talking the offensive line importance, I think Aleem McNeil's importance on the defensive line cannot be understated. He had a down year last year coming off of the injury the previous season. where at times he looked dominant as an interior pass rusher. Not even necessarily pass rusher, but interrupter. He's so athletic. He's got a lot of speed for his size. Him next to Tyleik Williams should be an elite combination. Then you throw Aiden Hutchinson on one side, Derek Moore on the other, and you really got something going here. But who out of these interior defensive linemen will make the roster? Only really 5 of these guys could make it, meaning 4 of those gentlemen might be gone. Mekhi Wingo is sort of on that line for me. And then guys like Tyler Lacey, Miles Adams, and Chris Smith are more of depth pieces or practice squad guys towards the end, leaving Lee McNeil, Tyleik Williams, the new additions, Jay Tufele, hopefully Levi Onwuzurike, and then Skylar Gill-Howard. I think he's going to have every opportunity to make an impact here. That young man is an undrafted free agent. I think the Lions will be looking for defensive interior lineman help, and he's going to have a shot there. If he can show that he can consistently play better and stay healthy than, let's say, Mekhi Wingo, he's got a real shot. And, of course, the position we all know and love to talk about, the edge position. IDL is such a huge question mark. One true nose tackle. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Tufele really is the guy, right? That's why I'm thinking like it's more about speed rush versus true gap filling, right? As far as their defensive line is concerned, I think they're expecting their linebackers to fill gaps a little bit more heavy this year. Levi's going to go off, says Trim. Big Mac will attack again. We need that. We need it big time. If Lee McNeil could get back to form, it makes everything easier for the Lions defense. Yeah, well, that's funny. They didn't list Kiniano there. That's weird. Huh. That's weird. That's an article from today, too. That's right from SI.com. I'll have to look farther into that. Thanks for the heads up. Don't know. I'll see what's going on with him. Let's get into the edge group. I mean, we know something's falling over. Aiden Hutchinson obviously leads this group. We need big things out of Aiden Hutchinson. He's got to be the motor of your defense. But now you've added some pieces opposite. And we can argue to the cows come home whether the pieces they added are who you would have added. But they did at least add to their edge pieces. DJ Wanham is the free agent addition. It'll be interesting to see how he fits into the mix. Again, he's more of a run-stuffing edge. Then they bring in Derek Moore as the draft pick. He's more of your pass-rushing edge. Then you have the comeback for Ahmed Hassanin. What can he be? I mean, we really don't know. He was injured all of last year, got the injury designation, and now he's back at OTAs. Looks like he's stayed in shape. He certainly has the motor for it and wants to be the best. He certainly talks that way. It'll be interesting to see what kind of opportunity he gets. Past that, Peyton Turner, Anthony Lucas, Eric O'Neill. My guess is they keep 4 or 5 edges, maybe 5. I think Turner, Lucas, and O'Neill are probably off the board practice squad players. But to me, it comes down to what does Derek Moore give them immediately? Does he enter OTAs, training camp, with a fire that puts him as that opposite edge? Or is it DJ Wanham's to lose? Is it a combination? Do they use both? They really need Derek Moore to come in and be another pass rushing specialist for them. I think if he could do that at the very least, work on the other skills, work on being more of a run presence, use the other edges they have as needed. I really believe this group will be better than they were last year. Again, would I have rather have seen a premier piece added on the opposite edge? Sure. But it is what it is. I think with the combination of Wanham, Moore, and if they can get something from these other guys in the depth role, that along with the interior guys we just talked about, I think they've taken a leap. The problem is it a leap into the shallow end or is it a leap into the deep end? We won't know. We really won't know. Let's talk about the linebackers. We know Jack Campbell just got the big contract, had a short come out last week that sort of laid out the groundwork for what that contract looked like. 4 years, 81 and change. Great deal for him. Great deal for the Lions. Makes him one of the highest paid linebackers of the NFL, but didn't reset the market. It was kind of perfect for what Jack Campbell, I think, was looking for. Gave him a little bit of a hometown discount and solidifies him as the voice of your defense for the next 4 years. Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, Damone Clark, Jimmy Rolder, Trevor Nowaski, Joe Bocci, and Eric Hunter are your current set of linebackers. I would guess they keep 5 or 6. We know Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes coming off of injury, Malcolm Rodriguez coming off of injury. I think those are shoe-ins. Then they have the free agent Damone Clark, which I think gives you a little bit more edge at the linebacker position. They draft Jimmy Rolder out of Michigan, so he will have every opportunity. And Trevor Nowaski has shown that he can make plays. He was kind of shoved into, having to take more snaps because of the injury situation in the last couple years. And he's shown that he can be a reliable linebacker piece in a depth role. So those would be the guys that I think make the team. I think Bocci and Eric Hunter are probably on the outs. But right now, that's not a very deep room as far as the number of guys competing. Who knows if the Lions bring in anybody else free agent-wise? That's still a possibility as they get closer to training camp. Things happen in OTAs. Guys fall off, get injured. That may be a position group the Lions continue to add to. But let me know what you're seeing for the defense so far. Defensive linemen, edge, linebackers are an OTA group you're most looking forward to. Is there a guy that you think will make the roster that I'm just not looking at too deeply? What's up, Robert? How you doing, buddy? Robert says Holmes is low-key going for a Super Bowl without saying it based on his moves. I'm calling it, bro. I love it, Robert. I love the confidence. I'm with you. I like the roster the way it's shaking up right now for OTAs. Don't know. Says Eric Hunter could be good one day, but this is not that season, in my opinion. Yeah, I think he's got a lot of guys in front of him that are just going to kind of prevent that. But who knows? Milano would be nice to add over Barnes. There we go. Epineza is still available as an edge as well. I think that'd be nice to add to the mix. I know Cam Jordan's still out there. There's a couple of free agents that would make some sense for what we've laid out here, but this is what we have currently going in OTAs. And I'll certainly keep you guys updated on the channel. If any contracts get renegotiated, if the Lions add any additional free agents. Also, make sure to check out Don't Know Grit. Daily updates on Lions content, and he is really day-to-day with OTAs. Anything happen, day-to-day, I go check him out. So that's worth the look. Now let's get into the cornerbacks, because that is a very interesting position. That's what Don't Know Grit had kind of singled out as maybe the best camp battle, best thing to look out for at OTAs. What do they get out of their cornerbacks? Number one, health. Who's coming in healthy? Who's going to be able to contribute right away? The Terrion Arnold situation in the offseason, does that rear its ugly head anymore? I haven't heard a ton of news coming out of that. So as of right now, Terrion Arnold is expected at OTAs. Then we talked about DJ Reed, Enos Rakestraw. They picked up Roger McCreary in free agency. Keith Abney, they drafted this year. Rock Ya-Sin was a re-sign. Khalil Dorsey is still hanging out. They have Deshaun Rucker, Nick Whiteside, Amaris Brown. Injuries in the past couple years have devastated this group. So, number one, the Lions just need better luck, number one. And they're really going to look at Terrion Arnold. I think this is the make or break year for him. If everything plays out well in the offseason, he obviously is the Lions' number one cornerback option between him and DJ Reed, and he's got to step up. We saw with Seattle the importance of the defensive backs, the importance of having lockdown corners, which allows your defense to do so many other things. So will the guys at the top of this position group be lockdown, be the guys they need to make the difference? Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed, your two primary corners. What does Enos Rakestraw give you now? Coming off of multiple injured seasons, can he be a guy for you? Does he fill that slot corner role that the Lions have an opening at? Does Keith Abney take that role? They certainly will have a lot of competition, and it will be very interesting to see what happens. Where does Rock Ya-Sin fit in this mix? He was probably the Lions' best corner when all said and done last year because of his availability and the way he played when he was available. Him and Khalil Dorsey are very versatile veterans, and I think both of them make this roster. So I think it's Terrion, DJ, McCreary, Rakestraw, Abney, Rock Ya-Sin, and Dorsey, whereas Rucker, Whiteside probably on the out, unfortunately, and Amaris Brown as well. Now, we can also look at the safeties. Some of these guys can kind of intermix. We know Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch right now are injured. Now, Brian Branch is listed as injured, whereas Kirby Joseph is not, but he has not yet been at off-season workouts, and I don't know if he's expected to be at OTAs. That's going to be another interesting piece to look out for, is what is Kirby Joseph's status? Is he available in OTAs? What does that need look like? Can he compete in the offseason, or are they saving him for the regular season? Even when we get there, is he going to be able to play? There's so many open-ended questions with this safety group. So you really have to look beyond those first two. Christian Izien, another free agent signing, Thomas Harper, Avonte Maddox, Chuck Clark, Lauren Strickland, Dan Jackson, all in the safety room. Again, Branch with a torn Achilles, and Kirby being up in the air, it may cause the Lions to keep an additional safety or two on this roster early in the season. Number one, to have the depth they need there, but number two, to have enough defensive backs to be able to rotate. Some of these guys are going to have some versatility to step up and play corner, nickel corner, and play safety. So Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are the no-brainers there. You're all pros. But behind them is where you got questions. I think it's going to be Christian Izien, Harper, Maddox, and I'll say Chuck Clark. But I think Lauren Strickland and Dan Jackson both have opportunities to make this roster. Yeah, Avonte Maddox was a really good re-signing. Again, between Avonte Maddox, Rock Yassin, those were the two guys you really could count on last year in your defensive backfield. So I think both those guys make the roster, no doubt, but hopefully are used more in a depth role where they should be, where they're more effective. And then the specialists, we know Jake Bates will win the kicker role as long as everything stays true. Jack Fox, an all-pro punter, and Hogan Hatton will be the long snappers. He is still on the roster. So really no changes to the core specialty group for the Lions. And that kind of runs us down the state of the Lions roster as we enter OTAs. We kind of broke down what the 53 could look like. Obviously, a lot's going to play out over the next couple of weeks as the Lions get into OTAs. And then there'll be a little bit of a layover before the offseason training program really kicks in with training camp. The pads come on, and then it gets down to the nitty-gritty, and we will see what this roster will look like for the Lions. But I will say this. It was a very trying offseason between Lions fans, content creators, just talking football in general with folks. I think many think the Lions window is closing. But I would say after this offseason, what we saw them do in free agency and the draft, and as we prepare for OTAs, I really think the Lions roster is shaping up very well for 2026. They stuck to their word. They draft, develop, and they reward their players. They were very specific about what they did in free agency. They did address the holes on this team. They were aggressive but not splashy. And I really believe that they solved the offensive line problem to the best of their ability this offseason. I think they drafted the player that fell to them the right way in Blake Miller, which sets them up at tackle. Interior, they signed Cade Mays as that solution at center, which should make the rest of the interior and offensive line as a whole better. And we know where the Lions struggled last year, not only with their offensive coordinator and the consistency of their offense, but that all started with that offensive line. So with the additions, with the depth that they've now built across that unit, I really think the Lions are in a much better position in 2026, which should mean much better things for this Lions offense. I think the real question remains on defense. Can the Lions remain healthy? If so, I think they have a fantastic defensive roster. There are a couple holes. We talked about the lack of a true nose tackle, the questions at safety, limited selections at linebacker. But this is now the second year for defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard. I think the Lions will get a little more luck on the injury side of things. And if that is the case, this unit has the potential to be top 10 in football. I really believe that to be the case. Their defensive line should really take a step up this year. I think Aiden Hutchinson will be firing on all cylinders. They've added pieces to the opposite edge. A guy like Tyleek Williams next to what will hopefully be another breakout year for Aleem McNeil could mean everything for this defense. They've built depth in the secondary. And if they can get their safeties back, I really believe they have enough talent to make this thing happen in 2026. I believe this to be the deepest Lions roster in the Dan Campbell era, and I think this will show in the upcoming season. It's going to be a fantastic set of OTAs over the next couple weeks as we get towards training camp, preseason, so many open-ended questions, but the Lions have put themselves in a position where they will compete in 2026, and I'm very excited for it. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. Lions are stacked, in my honest opinion. I love it, Trim. I think they're looking good right now, buddy. Going through the roster, I feel really good about where they're at. I'm excited. I'm excited that football's kind of back. OTAs are here. Don't know says, raise your hand if you have Hogan Hatton and Jack Fox jersey. I love our special teams group. Yeah, I can't imagine they sell a ton of those, but I mean, shoot, Jack Fox jersey, let's go. I mean, all-pro punter, you love it. He's kind of a handsome dude too, you know. If anybody's interested right now, the Western Conference Finals Game 5, that series tied at 2. Oklahoma City up 98-88 over the Spurs just about the end of the third quarter. So I'm going to go check in on that as we get done here today. I'm well aware. Yes, I love it. I appreciate you guys. Seriously, Don't Know Grit, Trim, Millicent, Robert Murphy, appreciate you guys for being involved in the chat, for coming back to see me after a week-long hiatus. Mile Marker, MC, appreciate all you guys for getting involved. A. Williams, what's happening, dude? Everybody who came around today, I really appreciate you guys. Again, we're going to try and keep this to Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the offseason, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm sort of toying with potentially changing our timing a little bit. Nothing will happen out of nowhere. You will get announcements if any sort of time change takes place. That's probably a little bit into the future. I will keep you posted on that. But for now, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be covering all Detroit sports. But as we get closer and closer to the Lions preseason, that's really going to be a heavy focus. And once the football season kicks off, man, it's just Lions 24/7 here on this channel. And hopefully good things for 2026 for our Lions. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the rest of this offseason as we build towards everything. We're going to have Don't Know Grit hopefully back on the show very soon. And we'll be off and running. But guys, more than anything, like I said, I appreciate you. If you haven't checked out the other social networks for Johnny Gaz Sports, make sure to do so. Facebook, YouTube are kind of the central hubs for Johnny Gaz Sports. That's where a lot of the primary content comes out first, but I cover all of your social networks. If you search for @Johnny Gaz Sports, you can find concise, reliable Detroit sports content each and every day. I appreciate everybody for being involved. Millicent, let's kick it off. Let's end just like we started, with you saying hello, but also you saying goodbye in one of these. Maybe. There it is. No, I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. Appreciate everybody in chat. Mile Marker, appreciate you so much, guys. We're going to end it right there. Again, I hope everybody had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. I spent it with family, my son. We had a Memorial Day baseball tournament. Couldn't have asked for anything better. The weather, could have had something better. But the truth is, I got to be with family. I got to be heavily involved with my kids' sports, and I was so grateful for that. My mom was in town. Big shout out to Michelle Kreitzberg. She always takes care of me and the family. We don't live in the same state, so that separation can be difficult sometimes. A lot of my family's still back in Michigan, where I still, hold my heart. But my family, my little small group is here in upstate New York, and we had such a great time. I hope you guys did too. More than anything, take care of your mental health. That's what it did for me. I was able to reset last week. Thank you for being patient with me, allowing me to take a week off from these lives. I promise you we're going to hit the ground running real hard, starting with today. We'll be back Thursday, and then we'll be flying through the Lions offseason. Nothing but lives, Tuesday, Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to take care of yourself, though. That mental health is so important. Go talk to somebody, find a therapist, talk to a friend, reach out to me. I'm here for you. We are all here for you in chat. We love you guys. I just unmade the list. Thank you, Trim. I don't want to be on the list. If any, I want to be on the good list. You know what I mean? Now, I appreciate you guys. Trim, you the man. You guys are fantastic. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night. Have a great Wednesday. I will see you all hopefully Thursday at 9:30. We'll have more fun Lions topics. We might have some contracts to talk about. We're going to be in the midst of OTA, so we'll kind of get some updates there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic night. Peace out. Bye-bye.